here. It's alive. It's moving. It's coming this way. It's the wolf monster. A new ghastly creature from the world of darkness, evil, and horror.
They're sometimes called frankenfoods. They're scarier than world hunger, more terrifying than malnutrition and illness in developing countries, more frightening than small farm bankruptcy, dangerouser than pesticides, parasites, vitamin deficiency, diabetes, pneumonia, crop drought, cholera, hepatitis, plague, and anthrax put together. They're GMOs. Genetically modified organisms.
Meet Dr. Henry Daniel, professor of University of Central Florida and head of Daniel Lab for Molecular Biotechnology Research, one of the leading research labs working on genetically modified organisms. Dr. Daniel discovered that he could insert the insulin gene into lettuce by genetic modification. If type 1 diabetics were to eat these genetically modified plants, their bodies would eventually learn to maintain a permanent solution to their disease, something less expensive and more permanent than the standard daily insulin shots diabetics currently need to take. In studies conducted with diabetic mice, the mice were cured after 8 weeks of eating this lettuce. He also works to genetically modify plants for low-cost sources of vaccines and pharmaceuticals, as opposed to expensive injectables, which many nations cannot afford.
My primary focus is developing vaccines and biopharmaceuticals in a new platform. The real advantage of this technology, meaning low-cost vaccines, are vaccines that are not available for diseases so far. Still, millions of children are dying because of the expensive vaccines or not availability of vaccines like malaria. And so many other diseases where, and this technology offers that possibility of developing low-cost vaccine. So something that's not available so far is cures for diseases like diabetes, and cures for infectious diseases or vaccines for infectious diseases are the ones that are going to be really the hallmark of success of this technology. And I'm quite confident that this will come to the attention of the society in the next few years.
Why is it that humans are the only animals who don't know what we're eating?
People, even if they don't understand the intricacies and complications, say, of genetic engineering, they get naturally suspicious when they suspect that their food is chemically contaminated or genetically modified, and the secrecy of the corporations heightens that suspicion.
Know exactly what we think. They know that we want our children's food to be nutritious and unadulterated by chemicals. The supermarkets want to convince us that they give us exactly
to dig deeper into this issue.
In Europe, where the anti-GM movement is much stronger.
Check in now on the debate about genetically modified foods. Chances are you eat them.
I just said no to the GMO. Something's fishy about this tomato. Don't you know it's a GMO?
In spite of seeing so many natural and man-made calamities, we are now hurtling into one more man-made disaster. A disaster which may prove far more destructive than anything we have seen so far. simply because it will affect nearly every single person living on this planet. It may increase incidence of life-threatening diseases like cancer and a number of other ailments that are unknown to us right now.
The hour has come.
US has a very strong record of FDA regulating, and that's one of the reasons why medicine is so expensive in the US. If there are any complaints, they don't go uninvestigated. FDA takes every single complaint and then follows up on it. And US was the first country to adopt this in a very dramatic scale. For example, now 90% of soybean grown in the U.S. is genetically modified. And so that means 90% of the population is consuming this. And still there is not a single demonstrated case of any toxic side effect or any allergy or anything like that. There is really no clear documented case of any side effects to say that, look, somebody consumed this, so genetically modified soybean, and therefore they had this effect. And how could it escape so many regulatory agencies' cautious observation of this new technology and not be reported in a scientific literature?
Genetically modified organisms are a worldwide debate. Often, people have misconceptions about these frankenfoods, that they're hazardous to human health, the environment, and can infect other plants. These misunderstandings prevent GMOs from doing the massive good for the world that they're capable of. In North America, about 70% of products on the shelves of Canadian grocery stores contain genetically modified ingredients. Health Canada says GMOs are just as safe as non-genetically altered foods. Most of the food we eat already has GMOs in it without us even realizing. So why are we so afraid of them? In Europe, where food scares in the past few years have left consumers wary of information provided by the government on foods, protests against GMOs are rampant. It's hard to tell facts about GMO from myth in our fearful, media-bombarded modern society. In many developing nations in Africa and Asia, the famine isn't due to lack of food, but lack of food that's affordable for farmers to produce and consumers to purchase. Genetically modifying food to grow in harsher conditions, survive disease, and battle vitamin A deficiency can solve hunger across the world. According to the UN, there are 800 million people starving worldwide, 146 million of which are under 5 years of age.
Most continents have adopted the genetically modified crop technology. Just between India and China, there are 2 billion people. Both countries have advanced the GMOs, and U.S. is among the Western countries. Both North America and South America have major countries have advanced this and are using it. Europe as a continent has been opposed to this technology, and that's not really science-based, but it is based on political parties and trade wars and so on.
One of those non-science-based arguments against GMOs is the fact that big corporations and not small farmers are profiting from them.
Right now, I do agree that the benefits of this technology has been mostly enjoyed by big companies, especially seed companies that sell seeds, and the real benefit hasn't reached the farmers or hasn't reached the people because you haven't seen a significant reduction in cost of the food crops, even though the pesticides are not used and therefore the cost should have gone down. So I anticipate that the next generation of the genetically modified crop technology would be the ones that really benefit the community.
The world population is higher than ever, at 6 billion people. It's predicted to double in the next 50 years, and with diminishing fuel resources and harsher environmental conditions, old-fashioned farming techniques won't produce enough food to feed us all. We need to keep progressing, and the uninformed negative outlooks on GMO are holding us back. Genetically modified food may be the only thing that will ease our world's hunger pangs into the future.